G'day, g'day. Hope you guys are all having a good one. Today's video, I'm going to be covering Embergen to Blender workflow, really. I've got a couple requests, I guess, on this, so fair enough. I'll make a video on it, if people are interested. And so yeah, I'll just be covering the basics of pretty much just simply how to get it into Blender and a pretty rough setup. I'm not going to do like a super detailed setup because honestly, I myself don't entirely know either, right? And there's plenty of other people that have made tutorials, and I feel like if I go like super into it and try to do that onto my channel, I would probably have to do some, using some method that somebody else has already created, and then I don't know. Personally, for me, I don't really like going, okay, well, this guy's made a video on it. Why don't I go make a video covering exactly the same topic, using the same method that they did? Because I don't know. To me, that's just like kind of like content stealing, which I'm like got no interest in doing. So I'll just do a little bit of at least getting the basics set up, and hey, from here you can either work with what I've explained and shown in this tutorial. Alternatively, you can pivot from the setup to, and because I'm going to cover a bit of stuff that maybe some of those tutorials might not cover, and from there, you can watch a further tutorial for further, more in-depth rendering and stuff like that, or stuff like that. But I'll cover a bit of stuff, and I guess a bit of everything. And hey, this is gonna be, I guess, the most updated one as well once this releases, because yay, I don't know when anybody else's, but there'll be probably other ones later than this, but at least for when I upload this will be of course the latest. So yeah, for now, I mean, you can start with whatever you want. This is sort of going to change a little bit once you start getting like multicolored and stuff, and this is not particles either. Okay, particles is a whole nother thing that I honestly have no clue. So that would be, dude, particles and Embergen is a whole thing that I've barely covered, let alone importing into other programs. So that would take a bit. But let's get into this. So yeah, stuff like this, I don't know. You'd probably, I don't know if this is, I mean, that actually might just be literal lights changing, but there's particular ones, I don't know, I mean, once again, that's like more particles per se. Like, it's not too bad getting like green, I guess, but I don't know. Anyway, I'll get the basics, and we can play around with it a little bit later after. Yeah, I mean, let's get into it. So I'm going to use, for example, for this example, Aerial Explosion 3. You can use whatever you want, right? If you're just doing smoke, this is probably easier. If you're doing just fire, also maybe a bit easier. When you start doing like fire and smoke, then it starts getting a bit like there's a bit more fine tuning, because you need to both make the smoke look good, the fire look good, and then them look good together as well, of course. So I was just doing a bit of testing earlier, so ignore that. We've just got the basic explosion. Now, just a quick warning, there may be some issues with like playback, but hopefully all should be fine. I'm going to try not to be too much on my GPU, as I think sometimes that you get a bit of stuttering. Anyway, so let's get started. We're going to go add an export VDB node. Yeah, I mean, we'll just keep going with that. So we'll go from volume processing straight to export VDB. So the reason we're going to do this is because VDBs, they hold information. I mean, mostly like volume information, but they hold also the information for like the flames and everything like that. Once again, particles is a whole different, bag of tricks. And I believe, I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I've seen and understand of past stuff, I think that's probably just like points, and then you have to instance objects on the points using geonodes and stuff like that, which is just a whole bag of marbles that I'm not too aware of. But yeah, so from here, we're just going to choose our directory. So I've already got one set up, Embergen to Blender test. You can choose whatever you want. The key thing to note here is it's going to export a bunch of different like files. It'll be, you know, a file per frame, right? So from here, I would recommend doing a separate folder just for the VDB, because otherwise, you know, if you got a bunch of like working files and then you also got a bunch of VDB files, that's going to be a complete pain to mess around with. So from there, I mean, you can export however much you want. I'm just going to do maybe like 100, let's just say. I'm not too bothered, and so we can see from here that it ends over here, so we know, you know, pretty much over here is going to be the end. Yes, I'm cropping it out, but there's a tutorial, and you know, I don't really need the whole explosion to demonstrate it. Something that I was playing around with was temperature. You can turn that on and off. Everything that I've seen and used in the past, you are using just the density and flames. If there's a way to incorporate temperature into it, you know, I'll export it and show you so you get an idea of what I mean, but it's a different result and probably not the result that you'll be wanting, but once again, it's a different result. And if you can utilize the temperature, that's probably going to give you a better color portfolio per se, but I'll explain when I get into why that's going to be an issue. So I'll quickly export it and pause the video while I let that run. Awesome, so it didn't take me too long, maybe about like 40 seconds to export, so hopefully it doesn't take you too long, but of course the number of frames is going to impact the time it will take. But luckily Embergen's super duper quick and you're not having to do a bunch of caching and whatnot as you would in Houdini. So one of the cool pros. So from there I'm just going to delete everything because let's be honest, we're not going to need them. I mean, we could add, for example, a plane as like a reference. I mean, this is sort of like an in-air explosion, so it probably doesn't actually matter. But yeah, from here we're just going to go Control A. No, Shift A, sorry. Import, go to Volume, Import Open VDB. Which is something that I was like really confused when I was double checking this for the video, because if you go to import, for example, there is no VDB options here. I'm like, oh great, am I supposed to do like Alembic or something? But no, it is in volume and open VDB. You just got to locate your file. So mine's, for example, Jenga, Embergen, VDB. Just select any one of them, press A to have them all selected. Sometimes when you're doing sequences, you'll just need to select the first frame and it imports everything else. For some reason, it doesn't. You have to select everything, but it does treat it all like the sequence once you have that done. So we can see our thing here. You know, generally the sizing's pretty good, but I'm just going to scale it down just for so I don't have to worry about clipping with my camera and whatnot. I can't be bothered playing with that. So from off the bat, you can press space or whatever you have your keybind to play it back. Everything's running. Could be better, and I'm not too sure how to like cache it so it runs better, but you do get you know, it working fine there. But you know, render-wise, visually, it's not good, and you know, running it in Eevee, I mean, what in the world is going on? Great. So from here, we're going to turn it to cycles. And, you know, we're going to get a pretty similar issue. Super dark. I mean, you can always run a light. You could do like a sunlight, for example, if you wish. But, I mean, generally, if you're going to be trying to do a good render like this, you'll probably want to go to this red world icon. And we're just going to click color, the little yellow dot there. And we're going to go environment texture. And from here, we're going to add our HDRI. You may have something else, like for example, I believe I have True VFX, and you could probably run one of these if you have a special setup in Blender. But for the sake of this, we'll just do HDRI, and HDRIs run pretty well. So I've got a bunch of them. I'd recommend, you know, pure sky for these, but I mean, you might have some other stuff set up, but let's go for one of my pure sky HDRIs that I have. And boom! We're already off to a pretty good start here. We've got, you know, everything's visible, and, you know, quite nice. But as you'll know, you know, if we look at the explosion here, it is an explosion. It's not just smoke. What's going on? That's kind of because by default the flames aren't visible, and it sort of has like a default setup, but the default setup's kind of turned off just in case you don't need them by default. So where is it? Where are we? We're just going to quickly add a new one. I'm just going to go back. So from here, I've added a shader editor and a separate thing. You can, I believe, let me remember. Yeah, if you right click the center when you get these two arrows, you can split it. But you don't have to do that. You can do this once again in shader editor. I just like doing this because I've already got my playback options here. So I can sort of scrub through and figure out, you know, where everything is. So as I mentioned at first, I explored the temperature to show you what is going to happen. So if you have the temperature already by default here, all you got to do is just increase the black body intensity, which is going to look completely crazy. And we're just going to bring this temperature, I mean, we can bring it down to like a 1, for example, and play with, you know, that color here. And from here, bring it down. And as you can gonna see, like, the temperature by default is a little bit much. I don't know why. I don't know if this is something on, you know, the Jenga's end as to why the temperature by default kind of gives a weird result. Maybe it's on Blender's end, and it stays for a very long time, like 70 frames in. It should have already been effectively all covered, so I don't know, like, that's one of the times when I'm just like, I don't know if that's, you know, what's the causation for that. But from here, we're going to go, I believe it's flames, not flame. And we're just going to increase the black body, or is it flame? I could be missing that. No, it is flames. It will probably, there we go. So it is visible. Just make sure that you get your spelling right, because if you spell it wrong, or I don't know, limbs or something, you know, you're gonna have issues. Just make sure you're spelling it right. That's why I was like, did I get it right or wrong? And from here, we're gonna have basically our default setup. And from here, like, if you wanted like those green fire, you know what I mean? Like, you can do that, and you just play around with this black body, and it's going to give you different results. But by default, like, that's like if you want to boost it into like a more stylized per se color, you can always do that. And get your own colors going. Oops. Always got to remember that Embergen R to restart. That is not the case in Blender. So here's what this is. Kind of like a more desaturated, because it's like very much on that like yellow end, and you can play around with like the higher the temperature, you know, the lighter it's going to be, similar to when you're setting it up into Blender. The lower the temperature, the more duller on the black body scale it's going to be. So you can kind of mix and match that to see what's going to give you the result that you're after. And you can kind of play around with it. You can probably set it up like a custom, I mean, I've never really done this before, so there's going to be only, okay, side, little quip I have that's kind of annoying. It's color the American spelling. It's, to me, a bit annoying. I'm not too sure, yeah, so this seems to have an impact, so you can probably like, I don't know if the colors themselves do anything there. They seem to, yeah. I gotta be honest, I hadn't tried this, so this is experimentation territory. I'm not too sure. Sort of, they're just like a minor change. You can probably get like your own custom result there. I don't know if it does anything in the alpha, probably not. Let me unplug it. Let's see if that does. Nah, that's me just doing some testing. I'm sorry about that. I don't know. Let's just say that this is the result that we're after. I mean, you know, you can play. You got heaps of room to play around with to get whatever result that you like. There. Next up, we have some other parameters that we can play with. Like, for example, the color. This here is going to change the smoke color. So you can kind of get that to whatever you want. I generally wouldn't stay too far with this because otherwise it starts getting quite unrealistic. Maybe you want, to be honest with myself, I would generally just keep it pretty much in the middle. And the reason why is something that I'll come up and explain in a second. But yeah, we've also got density. This is pretty good. By default, you may want to lower this because you're like, oh, you know, it's looking, you know, a bit too much, and you can't really see the fire and stuff like that. But I'll cover how to get a better result, actually. Something that I haven't really seen too many other tutorials talk about. But yeah, we'll do that. Next, we've got absorption color, and this is kind of where you can get those like cool like tints and stuff. So there's a bit of like tinting. You can play around with it with the anisotropy, sorry, to get that. So as you can see, we're getting those nice tints. So you can get like a it's almost like a dirt kind of effect there. So sort of like how much this is, you know, affecting it. Which is already giving us a pretty cool result, to be honest. You do have like emission if you really want it, but I don't, you know what I mean? That's something that I don't, it's got its use cases, but I don't think for anything that like we'd be doing in regards to this. I just don't think that would be too helpful. But yeah, that's basically your basic setup. You can always like add your camera. We can just like set it up over I don't know. Say. Always like move it away. Set up whatever settings you think is the most realistic, and you can get it into place, but that's kind of like your own experimentation with your scene. So by default, bear in mind it's going to take a long time for rendering, and I'm not going to do that while I'm recording because that will just kill my PC. But what I will also note, and this is something that is, you know, you'll want to do a bit of playing around with. We've got two things here that are relatively important. So first and foremost, we have these steps here, right? So decreasing the steps and stuff is going to make, you know, viewport run like a whole lot faster, albeit the quality of it is going to be like a decent bit worse. So I don't know like to what extent, but you want to really go for, but you do start getting like real blocky results here. Vice versa. This isn't going to be super obvious, but this is something that you'd want to do for your render generally. Like you want a pretty clean, I don't know like really what you want to do like viewport wise, whatever is working fine. Like if you're working fine at 1, then don't bother, but you know, you're going to get much better results with like a 10, for example, or a 20. But decreasing your render rate. So decreasing this, I'm not gonna like, you know, I'll go like 0.5, for example. This is increasing. Oops. It's gonna increase the the quality of the volume. Of course, it's like, you know, within reason, but what do you call it? Like, the more you increase it, the less of a improved result you're going to see. But if you're going for like the highest quality volume, you'll probably want to decrease the you know, the stepping and stuff. So that's something that's potentially helpful for like a slightly better result, but you know, if you're fine with slower render times. Another thing is this here. By default, you've got 0, but now by increasing it, you know, we're getting more bounces with our light, and so now the light is actually affecting the smoke, which it doesn't really do by default too much. So to get a better result, we can just like darken this, play with like our anisotropy and stuff. And you know, I mean, it takes time to get like the result that you're completely after and happy with, but yeah, that's gonna give you a more realistic result. Just playing around with like, you know, bounces. The more bounces, probably the more realistic, but also takes more time to render and sort of messes with your AO. I'm not like too sure on how to like bring back all that AO and stuff like that, and you know, getting a super good result with that. But to me, it's just a bit of like experimentation. You get a result that you're after. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video. This was much longer. You know, you can probably find videos for like a minute and explaining the import, but this is kind of like bringing up, you know, what do each of these actually do? Kind of what, you know, result are you going to expect? You know, what are some like rendering techniques that may assist you? I would always say, you know, GPU compute. That one's kind of an obvious one, but hey, I don't know. I hope this video was entertaining. I hope you learned something. At the end of the day, you know, anything you want to say in the comments, feel free to let me know. Any questions, whatnot, I can try to respond if I know the answer. But at the end of the day, you know, you know, I'm still learning with these sorts of things as well. So hey, it is what it is. But yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Hope this was yeah, helpful. But yeah, have a good one. Catch you guys next time and see you later. Bye bye.